G'day everyone, Wade Connects here, and today I'm proud to announce a brand new series, Loco Tier Lists. If you watch this channel, then you more than likely like trains. If not, you love trains. And since I've already made a fantastic series about trains, which has attracted thousands of people around the world in 32 different countries, I've had my opinion on all the locomotives that I've used throughout the show. And in this series, I'm going to be sharing just that. I'm going to be going over some railways that I know very well, and share my opinion on some of their locomotives. I'm not going to go over every single locomotive that a specific railway owns, simply because that a locomotive that a specific railway owns could be owned by other railway companies, and because of the fact that I don't know every locomotive in the world, and also because of the fact of how goodness knows how many locomotives a specific company has. Gah! Anyways, with that all cleared out of the way, let's get started. By the way, if you guys want to do this tier list too, there's an app that'll be linked in the description that's all about tier lists, so you can use that to make your tier lists, and yeah. I've decided to make two separate tier lists, so that way I have enough room to showcase all of the locomotives. And also excuse me if some of the locomotives have been cut out a little bit in the tier lists. I'll post a list of the locomotives' names in the description, so that way you can check Google Images out to see the whole locomotives yourselves. Anyways, with all that out of the way, now we can actually begin, starting with the first tier list that I came up with. Also, for what I forgot to tell you in the beginning of the video, today's subject is all about Amtrak, just to let you know. The first locomotive we've got on the tier list is the RTG Turboliner, which is in the A- rank, which is the lowest in the tier list, mind you. Honestly, if I have to say anything right now, is that French locomotives are not my taste. I have nothing against the French, it's just their locomotives, well, the majority of their locomotives are not inspiring. Unless if you count their TGV locomotives, and possibly a few steam locomotives there too, if they're inspiring enough. I do not like French locomotives, and the RTG is a good example. It is the worst looking locomotive Amtrak has ever bought. And really, gas turbiners? Yes, they would have been cheap at the time, cheaper than diesel at the time, but once prices started rising up, they just caused so many reliability problems for Amtrak. And also, their couplings that were in between themselves and the coaches, just making them European and not modifying them, just no. Like, this is America we're talking about. They're no longer French, they're now part of the American race. You gotta get used to the Bald Eagle, come on! That's why it's an A-, because it is such a horrible locomotive, and Amtrak did not prepare it in the right way, even though it showed Amtrak that they were ready to, like, preserve new locomotives from other railways. Wow, I just completely sounded screwed up then. Up next in D tier, we have the RTL Turboliner, and even though I will admit it is definitely a big improvement from the RTG Turboliner, and is definitely a lot more reliable and an American-built locomotive, it is still inspired by the RTG, which is still not good enough for me to like it. So that's why it's in D tier, and I've got nothing else to say. It's in D tier, and that's that. C tier is where things started to get a little bit more positive, and in this rank, we've got Genises locomotives and the E60. Honestly, the E60, even though it has a lot of reliability problems like the SDP-40F did, it is still a very good looking locomotive, though I much prefer the E60C, which was the locomotive it was based on. Just give it 3 window cabs and make it look a bit more like the E60C, then I would have liked it a bit more. The Genises series of locomotives is okay. I much prefer the F40PH though, because the F40PH definitely deserves to be the poster boy, and the way that the Genises locomotives took over the poster boy fandom of the F40PH for a little bit, that just kind of made me feel sorry for the F40PHs. So if the P40 DCs, P32 AMDs, or whatever they're called, and the P42 DCs didn't get the spotlight as much, then I would have liked them a bit more. But they've still got a lot of liking to them to a lot of people, which is why a lot of American presidents decided to use the Genesis locomotives in their express train, in their private express trains. In B tier, we've got the F40PH up first. Honestly, who doesn't know this locomotive? Awesome, respectable, reliable, useful, beloved, and definitely probably won't fade out of time anytime soon. So therefore, it has my respect and deserves to be in B tier. The F59PHI, another very respectable locomotive. Honestly, even though I preferred the F59PH, which was the original locomotive that it was based on, I still really like this locomotive. It's colourful, fast, and very, very attractive, if you know what I mean. But still B tier overall, because it's very solid, and definitely should have deserved to last longer in most of Amtrak's services. The P30CH in A tier. Honestly, fantastic locomotive. Hilarious reliability problems, which makes it a very fantastic locomotive, and it's definitely a very good locomotive design. So A tier, you can't change my mind. A tier, it'll be A tier forever and ever. The SDP40F, again, another fantastic locomotive. The first locomotive officially bought for Amtrak service. Like, who cannot forget this locomotive if they know Amtrak? Like, really, an awesome locomotive. Even though it had a lot of reliability problems, it still has my respect for becoming the first ever locomotive Amtrak officially bought. Like, fantastic, and I love how it looks in Phase 3 just by looking at this image. So, definitely A. Very good locomotive. And now A+, and we've got both the AM7 and the P32 8BWH. Honestly, they're both two of my top favorite locomotives owned by Amtrak. The P32-8BWH is one of my top 5 favorite diesels, and the AM7 is my favorite electric. Like, outstanding locomotives, very reliable and very successful for both EMD and General Electric. Outstanding. Like, you roll, those two locomotives rock. Well, that was the first tier list. Now it's time to move on to the second tier list. Let's go. First, we have D tier because there's nothing in the A- tier. So, first up, we've got the Acela Express, and I've got nothing much to say except one thing. Not inspiring. And a little bit dangerous, if you know what I mean. If you watch Engines of Amtrak, Acela Express, you know what I mean. Alright, the Siemens ACS-64 Charger. Not a creative locomotive. They took the Siemens SC-44 Charger, modified its cab and nose a little bit, and boom, you got the ACS-42 Charger. It's pretty much a Siemens SC-44, but with the newer Amtrak Phase 6 paint scheme. And honestly, that paint scheme at first I thought was cool, but now it just looks nowhere as good as Phase 5. Like, creative but horrible. D tier, just no. All I can say for the F69 PHAC is that I don't like it, but I don't hate it either. That's all I've got to say for it. And the SC-44 Charger, I don't really see why you should hate it, because yes, it's ugly in my opinion, but you gotta understand that some locomotives, they just need to be given a chance in their reliability service, and I kind of feel sorry that it gets hated on so much. Like, I know a lot of you Amtrak fans are gonna hate me for that opinion, but I don't care. I'm dead inside to, like, hate this locomotive, you know what I mean? So, C tier. I've got to put it in C tier. I'm not putting it any higher, but I'm putting it in C tier. So, it's not the best locomotive in the world, but I give it a solid 6. In B tier, we've got both the GP40TC and the Bud Metroliner. Honestly, both very average locomotives. Both tried their best to get their purposes or maintain their purposes for long, but didn't really hold them for very long. So, they both got my respect and got B, because they definitely tried their best to, like, become good members of their team. The Bud Metroliner definitely tried to become the fastest locomotive in the world at the time, and the GP40TC tried its best to, like, be the best helper locomotive for Amtrak's power service. but their positions didn't last too long, so definitely got my respect, B tier. In A tier, we've got the Siemens ACS-64 or Amtrak City Sprinter, and honestly, this City Sprinter is amazing. Definitely got unique knuckle couplings, very fast, and just a cool looking locomotive. Not as cool as the AEM7, but I still like it a lot. Definitely A. Next up, we have the HHP-8 by Bombardier Alstom, and despite all of its reliability problems, I still really like this locomotive. It's streamlined, it's cool, it's fast, and it looks pretty good in Phase 5 paint, so definitely got my respect, and a very fantastic locomotive, so A tier. And if anything, if it didn't have all these reliability problems, then it would definitely be an A+, because it's so cool. And it definitely would have also been a lot better of a locomotive than the AEM7. And finally, who could forget the newest engine to the fleet? The Avelia Liberty. Honestly, hands down, if this goes into the service or not, this will be without a doubt my all-time favorite bullet train for as long as I live. Very streamlined, perfect colors, just really cool. Like, oh, if there's any Amtrak locomotive that's still in service that I want, or coming into service that I would want to ride if I go to America, this would be the locomotive, because hands down, it looks so cool, and even if it does have reliability problems that can cause death, like, that is one risk I'm going to take because of how beautiful this locomotive looks. So, A+, if I made an double plus A tier, then that would have definitely been a lot more, because this locomotive is just so cool. I absolutely love it. And that concludes today's first ever tier list. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. This video was really fun to make because this was the first time I actually ever got to share my own personal opinion. So if you guys watch this video and like it, thank you very much, because this video was definitely unusual to make, but at the same time, a great way to introduce a brand new series. And if you guys want to see more tier lists like this, be sure to hit the like button and also subscribe and turn on the bell so you'll be notified whenever I release either brand new Railway Lines videos or brand new Loco tier list videos. And also be sure to share this video with a friend, because honestly, I think they might like it too, especially if you're an Amtrak lover, because this video was pretty much inspired by Amtrak Guy 365, and his Engines of Amtrak series, so I really loved making this video. Anyways, that's enough of me today. Thank you all very much for watching, and I will see you all at the next station.